Victor Wembanyama is who everyone in the NBA is talking about this upcoming draft season. He's got the raw skills and genetics to make him potentially one of the most valuable players for any team. So where is he going to go? There are tons of teams that have him on their radar, and quite a few who would greatly benefit from having him on their side. Let's take a look at each team's chances of getting him this upcoming draft season. Here are the best NBA teams with the best chance to land Victor Wembanyama. But first, let's get one thing straight. Is Victor Wembanyama really all that? We've been hearing about him non-stop these past few months. But what actually are his stats? And how good is he in terms of his competition? Well, the answer to that one just might surprise you, because while it's currently still being debated, Victor Wembanyama is possibly the most highly touted basketball player entering the association since LeBron James in 2003, which is a pretty bold statement, right? But it's true. He's sought after almost as much as James was back in the day.
No one has ever seen anyone as tall as he is, but as fluid and as graceful he is out on the floor.
Not to mention, his stats are out of control. He has some of the most impressive natural and playing stats out of anyone we've seen up for the draft in a very long time. Pretty crazy, huh? The 19-year-old stands at 7'5" with shoes on. And if that wasn't crazy enough, he's rumored to have an 8-foot wingspan, which is absolutely mind-blowing, isn't it? If that turns out to be true, he's tied with a few of the greats for the longest wingspan in league history. Insanity, right? These stats are incredibly promising, and it's always nice to see someone with some natural advantages in the sport up for the draft. But does he have any real skills to add to those advantages? You just might be surprised, because while his in-game stats could use some work, he has time to flesh them out.
Je préfère dire que je suis le joueur du présent, parce que dans ce que j'essaie de faire ce que je peux faire dans le présent. Voilà. Aujourd'hui, je ne peux pas jouer en NBA, je suis pas assez vieux, mais je fais ce que je peux en Europe, quoi.
Seeing as he's only 19, plus his biological advantages tend to even him out. So really, there's no going wrong, is there? Anyway, let's talk about his in-game statistics. This information is a bit unpredictable, as it's likely to change as he improves, but these are the most updated stats we've got.
I know we're going to have a tough game for sure. Lithuania, never an easy team to play. Shooters, great shooters. Yeah, I know it's going to be a battle, that's for sure.
These stats are taken from the 3 World Cup qualifying games in 2022 to 23 with France's international team, which is where Wembanyama showcased the very best of his abilities.
1 year there, he was on the JV basketball team and the varsity golf team. So a late riser is Victor Wembanyama throws it down.
He averages around 20.3 points per game, with 10.0 rebounds per game to round it out. On top of that, he ranked at 2.7 blocks per game and had a 53.3% three-point percentage. His player efficiency was 25.0 as well. So overall, those are some pretty impressive stats, don't you think?
Spins away from the defender. Puts it up. Wembanyama trying to find some room. This is the running shot. Oh, and he makes it. Well.
Obviously, he still has far to go throughout his career. He is still only 19, and once he's drafted, his new team will train him up to be even better at his game. But the fact that these are his current stats, and he has some biological factors on his side, is absolutely crazy.
Upstairs for the throwdown of Wembanyama.
So yeah, he is kind of a big deal. There hasn't been someone up for the draft with this much potential in years. So naturally, everyone is losing their minds over it. But the main reason why people are losing their minds is because now's the time to figure out which team will be lucky enough to draft him. It's going to be a tough competition with tons of teams that could use his skills specifically, and plenty more that may just steal him away for the sake of it. Why don't we take a look at each team's chances of scoring Wembanyama on their team? With these stats, you can make your own guess as to which team will take the lucky score. Now, without further ado, let's take a look at the stats. There are quite a few different teams that have an elevated chance of scoring Victor Wembanyama. Let's just go with the top 5 that have the highest chance. Starting off at the bottom, the Portland Trail Blazers have a decent 9.4% chance of winning the draft pick, which doesn't sound like a lot, but compared to a lot of the other teams that aren't even on this list, I'd say it's pretty good odds, don't you think?
I'm not the easiest guy to talk to after a loss, so no, but I noticed, I noticed some Suns players next to our bench, and that's it. But I I didn't notice anyone else.
Although, like I said, there are plenty of other teams who have a much higher chance. Overall, 9.4 isn't too bad, but it's also not the best odds if you really want to secure that draft pick. Another thing to keep in mind with this specific team, Portland's pick is owed to Chicago if it doesn't fall 1 to 14, so there is a chance that their pick of Victor could go to Chicago. On top of that, they do have pretty good win projections. Although they aren't as high as some of the other teams, they still have a way better chance than some huge names in the game. Anyway, moving on to the next team immediately jumps up in likelihood from Portland. The Charlotte Hornets are the next team on the list, and they have a 12.8% chance of scoring Wembanyama on their team. But although their overall likelihood is a decent amount higher than Portland, their win projections are not as good. So honestly, they probably have the same overall chance when you factor everything in, right? One would definitely think so. But another important thing to note is the fact that the predicted odds in total for the Hornets is much better than that of the Trailblazers. And when you consider the fact that the Hornets' odds have remained the same since February, while the Trailblazers' odds have fluctuated a bit, it's looking like a bit of a tight race when you factor everything in. Now, moving on to the top 3 teams with the highest odds. We have the San Antonio Spurs, who have a 14.0% chance of getting their dream draft pick. Those odds are up from the Hornets, who had a 12.8% chance. So things are going up still, but not as steadily as they did before. Anyway, the Spurs have good win projections, but definitely not as good as some of the other teams. Plus, the fact that the predicted odds differ from the Hornets as well, it's really a roll of the dice. Their odds are pretty rounded out in comparison to other teams though, so you never know. They could be the ones who take Wembanyama to the pros. Moving on, number 2 out of all the teams is the Houston Rockets. They have a 14.0% chance as well, as do all the teams in the top 3. But what really sets the 3 teams apart from one another are the odds and factors involved with their overall likelihood. Let's take a look at the Rockets in comparison to the Spurs. In comparison, the Rockets have better win projections, but overall they aren't that much better than the Spurs. However, that's not to say they have no chance, because they really do have really good odds altogether. After all, they're number 2 for a reason. Anyway, the predicted odds for the Rockets aren't exactly the same as the Spurs. So why are they ahead? Well, since their win projections are better by a few digits, they hold the second place spot overall. Kinda funny how that happens, huh? But enough of that, you're probably waiting for the reveal of who has the top place and the best odds to draft picking Victor Wembanyama, right? Ready for the big reveal? Drum roll, please. The team with the best odds is the Detroit Pistons at 14.0%. Pretty surprising that the top 3 all have the same overall odds, isn't it? Anyway, the Pistons have the best shot at nabbing Wembanyama, with their win projections being multiple steps down from the Rockets before them. Combined with their outstanding predicted odds, make them the most likely candidate. So there you have it. Those are the teams with the best chance to win the most talked about draft candidate in years. But what do you think? Do you think that just because they have the best odds, the Pistons will take Victor home? Or are you rooting for the underdog? Either way, you can't deny that it's going to be incredibly interesting to watch it all unfold. But overall, we should really wish young Wembanyama well. It's got to be nerve-wracking to have all this hype surrounding where you'll get drafted. Hopefully, everything works out in the end. Those were all the NBA teams with the best chance to land Victor Wembanyama.